What's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes of my very first semi-professional photo and video gig. I say semi-professional because it was for family. My mother-in-law asked me to cover my grandfather-in-law's 85th birthday party. No pressure, right? And while it was for family, it was still a paid gig. And full disclosure, before this, I was purely a hobbyist. No client work, no event coverage, nothing like this. So this was my first real chance to put everything that I've learned about shooting photo and video over the past year or two into practice. The event was in the basement of a hotel with about 50 or 60 people. Picture low ceilings, tight corners, terrible lighting, and not much room to maneuver. The challenging space immediately influenced all of my gear decisions. I had brought two lenses with me, the Viltrox 27mm f1.2 and the Viltrox 75mm f1.2. Originally, the plan was to use a 75mm as my portrait lens for speeches and candid moments. However, because of the close quarters, the 75mm never left my bag. The room was simply too small. I ended up using the 27mm the whole time, and honestly, even that felt pretty tight for group shots. If I could do it again, I'd probably bring something wider, maybe my Sigma 16mm f1.4, to give myself more breathing room in such cramped spaces. And then, rookie mistake number one, I forgot my mini tripod. I had to shoot over an hour of speeches completely handheld. After about 30 minutes, my arms were screaming. The rig gets pretty heavy real fast, and I kept having to adjust my grip. I was shooting with my right hand on the top handle and my left hand supporting the bottom of the camera rig from below. Lesson learned. Your gear checklist is only as good as your memory. Back home, I figured that gyro stabilization and catalyst browse would save the day. It helped, but I wasn't thrilled. There were a number of points during the video where I could see these weird rubber banding artifacts. That elasticy distortion that screams over-stabilized. My ultimate solution was just to add a touch of standard stabilization in DaVinci Resolve. Just enough to smooth things out without making it too obvious. Here's the rig that I brought with me to the event. It certainly wasn't Hollywood grade, but it was able to get me through the day. The foundation of the rig was the Sony a6700 with the Viltrox 27mm f1.2 Pro lens. I've talked about the Sony a6700 in quite a few of my other videos, and I remain very impressed with just how great the image quality is on this camera for how affordable it is. I also want to give a special shout out to the autofocus on this camera. I shot all of the speeches and performances using continuous autofocus, and the subject recognition and eye tracking were almost perfect. I think there were only 2 or 3 times during the entire 70-minute recording where the autofocus got confused about which speaker I wanted to focus on. Also, even though it was quite warm in the event venue, to the point that I was sweating indoors, I didn't have any issues with the a6700 overheating during the shoot, although the camera was quite warm by the end. I attribute this to not using an external monitor over HDMI, which definitely helped manage the camera's thermal load. Instead, I just used the zebras on the camera's built-in screen to make sure that nothing important in the scene clipped. I shot wide open at f1.2 at the a67's base ISO of 800 in S-Log 3, which kept everything except the house lights pretty well exposed. Honestly, I think the super clean footage speaks for itself. I don't want to talk too much about the Viltrox 27mm f1.2 just yet, as I want to make a video on it, comparing it in depth to the Sigma 30mm f1.4, but for now, let's just say that it's become my new general purpose walk-around lens. For audio, I use the Zoom F3 recorder with a Comica VM20 shotgun mic and a Movo shock mount. I didn't want to worry about my audio levels on top of everything else, so I just ran the VM20 at its maximum gain and trusted that the 32-bit float recording of the Zoom F3 would allow me to sort things out in post, and, spoiler alert, it worked. Just fine. I actually was very happy with the audio from the event, especially after I processed it with Auphonic. If you don't know, Auphonic is an AI-based audio processing service that for me, as someone who knows very little about EQ and digital production techniques, has been an absolute game changer. I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. Speaking of gear that made my life easier, let's talk about how everything came together physically. Getting back to the rig, everything was connected with the Falcam F22 quick-release plates for fast teardown. As far as control surfaces for the rig, I used the Nitze Stinger top handle paired with a newer NATO side handle, although the side handle was mostly just a mounting point for the shotgun mic mount. The Nitze top handle, on the other hand, was a lifesaver. It's just so comfortable and ergonomic. Shout out to Caleb Pike for turning me on to this top handle. I also brought a few extra tools, which I didn't end up needing, but definitely could have come in handy depending on the environment and situation. First, for exposure control, a KNF Concept variable ND filter with a brass step-up ring, which I've talked about in one of my previous videos. Also, I brought my emergency kit, extra batteries for the camera and the Zoom F3, extra SD cards, and the SmallRig Film Riot collaboration multi-tool. Did everything go as planned? Far from it. Between forgetting my tripod, camera shake, and less than perfect compositions, I definitely have room to improve. But here's what matters. I captured genuine memories from my family, and the feeling I got when my mother-in-law texted me back, praising the photos and footage, worth every sore muscle and stress-filled moment. If you're a hobbyist wondering if you're ready for a real gig, you probably are. Just prepare thoroughly, expect to problem solve on the fly, and maybe double check that you packed your tripod. If this behind-the-scenes look was helpful, please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more on the way, and I'd love to hear about your first photography gig in the comments. The good, the bad, and especially the lessons learned. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Bedrock Reviews, signing off.